Welcome back to Beyond the Headline, everyone, where we discuss the realities of launching, scaling, and investing in a business. I'm delighted you're here today because I'm joined by Jonathan Eppers, the founder and CEO of RadPad. Thank you so much for being here today.
Hey, it's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Can we start out, John, with you introducing us to how RadPad works?
Yeah, so RadPad is primarily a mobile app that renters can download, pull it up. It's free, and they can start looking immediately at what's for rent around them. They can also search by things that's important to them, like the location, price, bed, bath. If they have a pet, we have a feature called tags. So if you want granite countertops or hardwood floors, you can tell us that, and we'll find those for you really easily. And it's also a product that you can actually pay your rent on. So if you are used to paying rent with a check or cash, you can actually come on RadPad and sign up and pay your rent, any landlord, with a credit or debit card. And the way we do it is we cut a check to the landlord. So we're trying to build the most renter-focused product in the market.
So what you have said before is that you guys wanted RadPad to be pro-renter. And the way that I felt it most, beyond convenience, of course, was the voice you use for the brand. I love that you say, what makes your pad rad, instead of, here are the property specs. Why is that so important to you?
Well, I think oftentimes, like in technology, I think people want to feel like it's not just a product. They want to feel like they can connect to it. And moving is such an emotional experience to begin with. And when we started RadPad, we said, for most people, when they start looking for a place, there's a lot of anxiety and frustration that comes with that. So how can we try to change that through the product, through data, and make people feel a certain way? And the little things we put into the app, like little headlines, like what makes this pad rad, or on our homepage it says, just hold on, we're going home, which is a lyric from Drake. We really try to infuse ourselves, into our product. And we think that sort of gives us this human connection, this human touch point that is important to people, and will make that experience just a little bit better. And we want to make it a lot better, but if we can make it a little bit better, we think we're winning. So it's important to sort of put some of the human element into the product.
You shared before, too, that storytelling with a great product can really be magical.
Yeah, it's one thing to have sort of, a great product, but if people don't know about it, how are they going to find it? And so I think that, when we try to talk about RadPad, we try to talk about it more than it's just this rental app. It's like your friend that's in your pocket. It's an app on your phone that's going to be there for you, whether you're looking for an apartment, whether you found the apartment, you need to communicate with your landlord for something, or if you want to pay your rent every month. And so I just think that it's important that as we talk about RadPad externally, that we talk about it in an authentic way, that like people can communicate. Like we get the problems. We get what your lifestyle, and we hope that we can build something that fits into that.
As you discuss the outward voice for that and how well it's worked, how do you make sure that you infuse that to your team, especially people who are on product and are literally working on the back end of things?
That's a great question. So much of our, I think, innovation comes from our culture. And I'm a product. My background's product, so I'm very passionate about our product. I use our product. It was built initially to sort of solve my need of finding a place on my own. So I had that emotional connection to our product. But I think everyone at RadPad, with the exception of one person, rents. So when people are here, and working on solving technical problems or trying to build new things for our customers, we're really building it for ourselves too. And while I may sort of lead product here, it's amazing that so many of our good ideas come from our team and people in the team. And oftentimes someone will bring up an idea and we'll say, well, that's a great idea. And we'll sort of see how that fits into our overall product, and if it makes sense, we'll build it. And I think that's the thing, people here come up with ideas, they actually execute and build the ideas themselves, and we can roll it out for not only ourselves, but our friends and other people who are using our service.
Your culture looks like you guys are having a lot of fun.
I think it's important to have fun with what you're building. If you're not having fun, why do this? Why get up every morning? I've worked jobs, I'm sure a lot of people have, that on Sunday nights, you're like, gosh, I don't want to go to work tomorrow. but you do it because you need your paycheck. And life is too short to spend time doing anything that is not enjoyable. And we really feel like we have this really unique position to build something that's really going to help a lot of people. And we take that seriously, and we're going to have fun doing it though. And I think if you're not doing that, then again, why do it at all?
What's your experience been like as CEO building the team?
It's one of the hardest things I've ever done. I mean, really it is. It's, finding talented people for one is always hard. We have a culture that we're trying to create that's sort of equivalent to like the French Laundry or the Four Seasons Hotel or Tesla, where we want to build the best product possible. And we're trying to solve like really big challenges. And so we look for a certain kind of person, both technically but also culturally. I think, look, in 100 years, if we're lucky enough to have RadPads lucky enough to be around,
it's going to be like a hologram probably, where you can just touch.
You'll just think what you want and you'll just be there. But if we're lucky to be around, no one's going to remember me. No one's going to remember the people here today. But what they will remember, what they will be part of is this culture that we create here that sort of drives, the innovation engine of RadPad for hopefully decades to come. And, while we're only 2.5 years old and we're still a startup and we're still fighting to succeed, we ultimately believe we're going to be around. And so it's sort of creating this like foundation today, which will continue to help, RadPad be really competitive in our space.
What surprised you about the leadership aspect?
How much time I have to spend with people. Which is for me I enjoy it, but it's also it can be it's an emotional thing. And when you go from 7-8 months ago there was 7 of us on the team to today there's 23 people on the team. It changes somewhere around like 12-13 people where it stops feeling like a family and more like it's a company. And I'm no longer like part of like all the conversations, and there's conversations happening without me in them, and that's normal and that's okay. But it's sort of it's a weird feeling. And what I try to do is set a tone for the company that demands excellence and focus, and give people the ability to succeed in whatever they're good at. I try to hire people that are much smarter than me, who are better at me than key things, and then empower them to do their best work.
How do you empower someone to do their best work in the sense of setting the standard of excellence, but also setting a standard of innovation and trying things?
Well, I'm constantly learning that. I think part of it is like not cutting corners. And when you're a startup, it's easy to try to want to cut corners. We're fighting against time. We're fighting against capital that we've raised. We're fighting against competitors. And it's sometimes easy to try to take shortcuts and cut corners, and that's not something that we're interested in doing. And that requires sometimes more work. That requires sometimes more creativity. But I think when people realize, like, look, hey, we've got to do this right, and that may take a little bit longer to do. That's valued here, and that's demanded. So I think that's part of it.
Can you give us an example of that?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked. I was actually thinking of an example as I was describing this. So just yesterday, this week Instagram rolled out the ability to start advertising on the platform. One of our biggest sources of acquisition so far has come from Facebook. Of course, Facebook owns Instagram, but Instagram is a totally different platform. The way people interact and use Instagram is different than Facebook. And so when we had a discussion yesterday with the guy on our team who does all of our digital marketing and one of our content marketers, it was an interesting discussion about like what kind of ads we're going to put on Instagram. And there was a sort of interesting discussion here about like, do we just copy our Facebook ads and put them on Instagram? And it was like, no, that's not going to work. And ultimately, like, we want to start testing immediately on Instagram. But we think that here the best thing to do is to come up with some really interesting concepts and then test those. And unfortunately, like, we can't just come up with a concept overnight, even though I'm pushing a team to start testing this week. And so Jessica, who's in content marketing, said, look, I need like 2 weeks to get together with a really awesome Viner and create a really cool video that tells like a really fun story. And I think it's worth it waiting 2 weeks to come up with 4 or 5 concepts and pushing out some images which may give us sort of skewed data. And so she convinced me that that's a good point. And again, let's not cut corners and try to just push something out to get something out. Let's actually do this right. And 2 weeks isn't really that long of time anyways. So that's an example I could think of that is
I think
relevant.
it's a great example both for the tone you've set for the company in terms of releasing new products and innovating on things, as well as the tone you've set for team members to come up to you, the founder and CEO, and say, hey, no, John, I need time to do this, and you accepting that. How have you built a culture where you feel comfortable telling the CEO, no, I can't do it by this week?
I think that's hard for people. I mean, I put myself in my former positions, and like, would I go up to my boss and say, I don't agree with what you're doing, or I think that this is the wrong approach? But I think part of it is me being direct with them. When they bring something to me, I don't kind of skirt around what I really think. I give them my direct feedback. And I think that when you're direct with people, it can sometimes be hard to hear that feedback. But if it's based around potentially data, if it's based around prior experiences, and it's not just an emotional reaction, people respect that. And I think because I'm direct with them, that they feel like they're direct with me. And I actually, I don't like it when people don't tell me the truth. And oftentimes I'll say, like, what do you think? And if I feel like they're not giving me the direct answer, I'll say, like, do you not feel that this is the right approach? And I think when you ask people directly, they'll tell you directly. And people see that when they give you an honest answer, you're not firing them, you're not kind of pushing them aside, and then that's encouraged. And then people feel more confident. And I think too, when like people bring up a suggestion and they actually see they can implement it, it gives them more confidence to be like, yeah, I had an idea, I brought it up, they listened to it, and it actually got built. And I think that that helps encourage people to be honest.
Having been a leader before, as for example, at eHarmony, senior product manager, to now being a founder, what's the difference in the leadership?
There's some similarities that at eHarmony as a product manager, I had to convince a lot of stakeholders that things I wanted to do were right for the business. And I think that's key of any product manager. Product sort of sits in the middle of engineering, it sits in the middle of different business units like finance and legal and the C team. So same with RadPad here. Maybe the difference is because I'm the CEO, I have the ability to sort of make a quicker decision than I would have, but ultimately, like, I try to build consensus around the teams. And it's not like I just shoot from the hip and say, like, let's go build this. Let's see what happens. It's kind of like, hey guys, there's a challenge we're trying to solve, and like, here's what I think could be a solution to the problem. And most times, like, the team rallies around that. And when they don't and they push back, we have an open discussion about it, and that does happen. And at the end of the day, it gets us a better product, and it's better for our customers.
And a lot of that goes to the mission to really be pro-renter, which is something we were discussing before, and how you're reaching people. And I want to take a second and talk about your marketing. For example, you guys had the great billboard, Dear Mr. President, here's a great way to find your new place. Tell us about that and your decision to bring on Mike from Call of Duty.
Yeah, so, it's important to me that, like, again, we surround ourselves with people who bring different ideas and different ways of thinking to RadPad. And we try to sort of be a little snarky, I think people, genuinely appreciate that when it's not over the top and when you're not.
Good point. That's a really good one.
And so, we also feel like renting's local. So, for example, in DC is the ad you mentioned with the Dear Mr. President. We run that ad just in DC because we're actually hoping President Obama will drive by and see that ad and maybe like give us a shout out. But, it was relevant, right? Because the president lives in DC. The president's going to be out of office in a year. You should start looking for an apartment, before you need to find an apartment. And so we thought it was a sort of a timely, geo-based ad, and it got a lot of attention and a lot of people talking, and that's what we wanted. So with Mike, Mike kind of brought that into RadPad with his background with Call of Duty, which he ran the Call of Duty franchise at Activision, which is a huge game in the world. So he really understands sort of, I think, how to storytell. Again, is something that I think is like great marketing and storytelling, and connect that with sort of like live events. And that's what we came up with. And we do that. We do different ad campaigns like that in different cities across the country.
Before you were targeting Obama for his next place, you built this with your two co-founders in your apartment in 3 months and then to the App Store. Let's spend some time there. What were the early days like?
They were wild. There was, The day I left eHarmony to go and officially step foot on RadPad was an exciting day. It was scary. I left up a great job at eHarmony, a lot of great people I worked with at eHarmony, and working on a massive consumer product that really is something that got me excited. So, but there was this new thing in front of us. We hadn't raised any money yet. And Tim, who's one of my co-founders, he moved in and lived on my floor on a mattress, which was kind of like initially supposed to be like for like a month, and ended up being like 8 months. And then
Cozy.
Tyler, what's that?
It's cozy.
It's cozy, right? And it made sure that I knew he was at work every day. But then Tyler, who's my other co-founder, he's a phenomenal designer. He was in Canada. He's Canadian. Lived in Toronto at the time. He was sort of working remotely. So the three of us, Tim and I, would work in my apartment, and Tyler would work remotely. And then Tyler moved down here. But it was wild. I mean, it was. We'd get up every day at like 8:39 and be working until 2, 3 in the morning. And especially Tim, he worked 7 days a week on this for months, building the first version of iOS with Tyler. And we were in that time we were working on my apartment. We were we had raised no money. We had an acquisition offer that we had turned down, which was kind of interesting and scary and exciting at the same time. People at the time were telling us that we were doing this all wrong, that by focusing on the renters, that was not the right approach. So there was a lot of sort of, I don't want to say second guessing, but there was a lot of like challenging ourselves. Like, are we making the right decisions? Are we thinking about this correctly? And at the end of the day, we said, like, look, like as we built this product, it got more and more apparent that this was awesome. And to be able to sit around and look at something that we just built and actually say to ourselves, like, this is really cool, sort of gave us sort of the confidence to keep on going. And as we kept on going, more and more people kept contacting us. Hey, I want to work with you guys. Hey, like I love your app. Like I use it. I found a place. And the more we heard that, the more it excited us. And the more it just kept on going and going and going. It's getting us here where we're at today.
I'm glad that you mentioned the acquisition offer because you guys actually got a couple, right?
Yeah, we've had a couple.
In the early days when things were very confusing and wild, how come you didn't say yes to that?
Well, one, it wasn't life-changing. It was enough money to we could travel the world for a couple years or whatever, but it wasn't life-changing. Two, but more than the money, it was more just like, look, we just started this, and like we really like this, and while we're young, so if we fail, we'll start over. We're all talented enough we could get jobs in other great companies. So it's sort of like this rebellious sort of like, hey, like we're not sellouts. We're not gonna sell this out too early. And we still feel that way. And I'm a couple years older than Tim and Tyler, and they were in their early 20s when we started RadPad, and I came to both of them and we got the offer, and we made it together. And I honestly expected them to say, like, let's take the money. We put in 3 and 4 months into this thing, and they would have each made a really decent amount of money for that time period. And they both looked at me and were like, no way, dude, we don't want to sell this thing. And it reinforced this bond between the three of us that we are in this together. We really, truly, genuinely mean it, that we want to solve this problem, and we're not going to like let a short-term sort of financial gain get in the way of doing this right.
So then we'll fast forward and be grateful that you didn't take the offer to another phone call that you got from Apple saying, hey, why don't you come out and check out what we're doing with Apple Pay? We really love what you're doing with RadPad. What was that like?
Well, that was really exciting. I mean, Steve Jobs has been sort of one of those people I've always really looked up to and admired and studied him and sort of his way of thinking and doing things. And so to get a call from a company I feel is one of the greatest companies in the world, working on building some of the best products in the world was like a milestone in my own personal career or professional career. And Tyler and I got to go up to Apple, and we got to go into the Cupertino headquarters and sit down with Matt Fisher, who is the head of the entire App Store worldwide, and sit down with one of the lifestyle managers of the category where RadPad's app is in, and really talk to them about what we're building. And they were like attentive, they were focused, they gave us like their time and attention, and they were really fascinated by like how we thought about the rental market. And Apple's not a company that you'd think that would be interested in the rental market, but here are the guys who are like, Matt Fisher's and Steve Jobs' biography, and here we are sitting there talking to him, and it was just one of those moments I'll never forget. And they were very fascinated by sort of the business model, how we're gonna make money. We were thinking to ourselves when we left the meeting, like, why are they so fascinated by how we're gonna make money? Like, what do they care? but they care because, if they're going to feature the app, if they're going to invest in giving us access to new things before it goes out to the market, they want to make sure we're going to be around, and they want to believe in us, just like an investor who would invest cash in us would believe in us. And it's been a special relationship. And there's some things that they do with us that I can't share, but it sort of reinforces our relationship together, and it encourages us to keep building the best stuff possible. Apple, believe it or not, gets very involved in like little details, like even like on our search page, they're like, have you considered changing this, or would you consider updating this button color or this style,
Wow.
this feature? Yeah, I mean, and it was really awesome to get that feedback. And we were like eating it up.
Going back to that initial feedback, so like the first meeting you had with Apple, not the second and continuous ones, you tweeted a long time ago an image of the little engine that could. And that is one of my all-time favorite books. When were some of the times where you guys were trekking through and just saying, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can?
There were several moments actually. I think anyone who's started a company is intimately familiar with this. This is not unique to RadPad, but we had raised a couple months after we started RadPad an acquisition offer. We turned an acquisition offer into an opportunity to raise money. We raised a couple $100,000, and there was just still Tim Tyler and I, and we were running out of money. We had about a month and a half left of money, and we weren't paying ourselves very much money to begin with, just enough to kind of pay our bills. And I had to go to Tim and Tyler and say, hey, like, can we cut? Can you guys like take like 30% less? Like that'll extend our runway by like another month, And they weren't making really anything either, and so we all cut our salaries after declining like an acquisition offer, and it was sort of one of these times where we had to like dig deep in ourselves and say like, hey, do we really want to keep doing this? Like, do we really want to stress at night about like, oh my gosh, in a month I may not have a job, and I may have lost people money, and I may be a failure, and that's like really scary. And fortunately, we were able to raise money a couple weeks later, and there was a meeting that happened. I got to meet with the guy that founded Rent.com, a guy named Scott Ingram, who I respect. So I was trying for like 6 months to get a meeting with the guy. He finally took a meeting with me. I went to his house. He saw RadPad. He said it was one of the best products in the market he'd ever seen, which just really made me feel great. And he introduced us to a fund that invests in RadPad. And why they invest? At that time, they invested because Scott Ingram was like, look, this is the best app. And he had sold Rent.com to eBay for about $600 million. So that meeting sort of turned the attention. And once this investor came in, more investors came in, and thankfully, like, we're still here. We were also sued. We got sued by a competitor of ours for something that they accused us of doing that we weren't doing. That was kind of scary. Like, I got served a lawsuit the day before Thanksgiving. So that was scary, and thankfully, it got resolved. They ended up dropping the lawsuit because, in America you can sue anybody. But, so there was times like that, and there's a few other things that have happened. But, at the end of the day, like, we got a great product, we got a lot of awesome customers, and that's what carries us through these difficult times. And this, in a way, is sort of addicting, Just when things are going too well, like in the back of your mind, you're like, oh my gosh, like something bad could happen. So enjoy the good moments,
I'm glad that you described it that way and appreciate your honesty for that. It lends to a great insight that Mark Sister over Upfront Ventures shared about coping with success. And I thought it was great because, like you said, when things are going so well, it does put a pressure on you. Is something bad going to happen? Or is the company scaling too fast? What's that been like for you, especially as the CEO?
That's the hardest thing because, I'd like to hire more people, but then it's like, okay, like, can we afford them? If I hire them now, is that going to, that's going to increase our burn? Like, when are we going to raise money again? We're going to make money. So there's always this battle, like, of trying to grow the company and trying to bring new resources and new ideas to innovate and help us, move faster. So it is a challenge. I think what sort of helps me is that I've got some really great advisors around me that, like, I can bounce ideas around. Oftentimes, like, one was here yesterday, stopped in, we took a walk. We typically don't like sit here in one of these conference rooms and like have these discussions. We go out, we like take walks. I call them up late at night. Oftentimes they're available on the weekends for me. Like, they're just great. There's about 3 people that I go to that have started companies, that have sold their companies, that have failed with companies, that have, have their own funds of like hundreds of millions of dollars. So this is a very diverse group who've done a lot of different things, and so I lean on them for a lot of support. And my two co-founders help out a lot with these decisions. But ultimately, like, it's just, it's a startup, so you're learning as you go. There's not a handbook for this. And the key thing I think for successful startups is like, when you make a mistake, you fix it fast. You don't sit there and like dwell on it.
How could this have happened?
What's that?
So just sitting there like, how could this have happened?
Exactly. You got to admit when you were wrong, and you got to let the team know, like, hey, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have done that, or I shouldn't have invested there, and course correct. And, oftentimes, like, you've got to pull yourself out of the startup. You got to go somewhere you can objectively think. And for me, I do that in planes. Like, I like to, when I'm up at 3,000 feet in the air, for whatever reason, when I look down on Earth, it's when I can escape from the day-to-day, and I can actually think more clearly. And so that's oftentimes when I can actually objectively look at the business and say, like, we're doing this right or we're doing this wrong, and we need to change things.
When it comes to something that you're doing wrong that's maybe at the higher level, what degree of transparency do you think as CEO you should have with the team if something, so let's say, like, I know you're not, but let's say you're running out of money. Is that something that you share with the whole team now that it's bigger?
I think that, I try to absorb all, someone described to me one time, running a startup or working at a startup could be akin to being like a cocaine addict, because you have really high highs, you have really low lows, and you're trying to shoot for somewhere in the middle. And that's true of startups, and so for me, I try to absorb all of those sort of ups and downs more, so that our team has more of a trajectory like this versus like this, And so that's one thing I've tried consciously to do. But I think transparency is key. Look, like, when you're in a startup, like, people can sort of gauge what's happening. And what you don't want is, you don't want people misinterpreting things. You don't want people off in the corner talking amongst themselves. So I try to share as much information as I can. Every month we have a town hall. I go over all the financials. I go over all of our growth metrics. I talk about the product focuses. I talk about things that we're doing that are right. I talk about things that we're doing that are wrong. And at the end of each town hall, it always goes back to focus. Like, what are we doing? Why are we focused on this? And how do what you do contribute to this overall success of our company? So would I tell the company that we're running out of money? If I had to, yeah, because these are people's livelihoods and they need to be prepared. But I'm not going to give them sort of the day-to-day ups and downs, that would affect their ability to do great work.
As you focus on, absorbing that for the sake of the team doing great work, let's fast forward a couple of years. If you could write the best possible future for RadPad, what does it sound like to you?
Every renter in the world is using our products.
Good tagline.
That's the truth. And we really think that we can create something that really touches it. In America, there's 100 million renters. Actually, the rental market actually grew by about 10% in the last 6-7 years because of the recession 5-6 years ago. More people came into the rental market. So, and people value renting. They are renting a lot longer in life. So we want to create a product that not only helps them find an apartment, but that they use the entire time they're renting, and that everyone that's renting is using. So we started in the United States. Our plans are very ambitious to go, worldwide. I think, there's a lot of markets and cities like the United States, like Hong Kong, Singapore, London, Canada. So, and we have customers in those markets who are begging us to come into those markets. So it's a good feeling to have, to know that we're wanted outside of, our homeland.
Very cool. Sounds like a plan. I'll hold you to it.
Please.
Before we go, John, we always like to end with just a couple of life questions. So I know you're an older sibling like me. What's your favorite part about being an older sibling?
Well, I got the ability to watch. I have 4 brothers. I'm the oldest. I got the ability to sort of the privilege to watch 4 of my brothers grow up, and that's
God bless your parents.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, they had 5 contractors that were cleaning the house, doing the lawn. So they took advantage of us. I'm from the Midwest, so they put us to work. But it's neat. My brothers are all very different than I am. They all think differently than I do. We all think differently than each other. And so, I got the ability to sort of I think it's prepared me to be, I think, a better CEO, because I've been able to sort of be the older brother of my, my family, and sort of learning how to work with my brothers, learning how to work with my employees, being a team player, I think when you're the oldest, you oftentimes sort of like, I don't know, it prepares you maybe better than life. A lot of times they say the youngest is like the spoiled brat.
I'll agree with that.
But my brother's not that way. But so I had to. So it's neat. I felt like a sense of like pride over my brothers, and that same way I do with RadPad. So
I love that. What a great description. Second life question: if you were an ice cream flavor, what flavor would you be?
This is gonna be boring, but I'd be vanilla. I love vanilla. That's my favorite.
Over chocolate?
Yeah, I know, right? It makes no sense.
Interview's done. We're closing down.
I'm a very like vanilla guy. Like, well, not really, but for the flavor, I love vanilla. It's a very dynamic flavor. Like, how would you describe the flavor of vanilla?
Average. I would describe it as average compared to chocolate.
Well, chocolate can't be made without starting with vanilla first, right? So
I guess. All right, last question, also related to food. I know you love cooking. If you had all day to cook your ideal meal, what would it be?
maybe it's my Midwestern like upbringing and the fact that my mom's family were farmers, but I love like meat and potatoes. I love grilling out. My favorite thing to do on Sundays actually is I typically go to the store in the morning to the farmers market. We're lucky enough to have some great markets. I buy like fresh meat, typically like filet mignon steak.
Cool.
I like sweet potatoes and corn on the cob. I grill it up and then I invite my buddies over. We come over and like we eat, and that's what I love. So that's what I would cook up.
It's a good way to end the week.
Or start the week.
Well, John, I can't thank you enough for being with me today. How can everyone stay up to date with you and then also stay up to date with the great work you guys are doing at RadPad?
Thank you. Well, you can follow us. You can follow RadPad on Twitter at RadPad. You can go to our website on radpad.com. We're in both Android and iOS app stores, just RadPad. Or on Twitter, you can tweet me at Jonathan Eppers.
Perfect. Thank you so much.